And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Today we're taking a look at the third map pack for Ticket to Ride. You would think that I'd be tired of Ticket to Ride map packs, but they could make... I will be gladly here reviewing the 80th map pack, I think, as time goes by. Here we go to Africa. Huzzah! Africa. Now to play this, you need one of the current Ticket to Ride sets. You need Ticket to Ride Europe, the original Ticket to Ride. I think this would work with Ticket to Ride Markland. You might have to make a few adjustments. Or Ticket to Ride Nordic countries. Any of those would work with this game. This game provides you all the tickets that you need, some new mechanics, and unlike the original Ticket to Ride, instead of the longest route, you get points for completing the most tickets. Well, enough about that. I'm going to just give you my opinion as we look at the board, so let's look at it. So here's the map, and it's the south of Africa, the bottom, and it's turned sideways a little bit here. Well, not a little bit, it's turned sideways. And so you can see, now this is a very unusual map. In fact, I don't know that there's any Ticket to Ride map like it. And so let's take a moment and talk about the map itself first. This is by far the meanest map I've ever played. There's a lot going on in this map because of the way it was designed. First of all, let's talk about the tickets. There's a lot of tickets that come with this game. And 18 of the tickets are 17 points or higher. In fact, there's one ticket that's 27 points. And you say, wow, you're going to score a lot of points in this game. In fact, there's very few tickets that are low. There's a 5-point ticket and a few 6 and 7s, but that's it. And unfortunately, you're not going to score as many tickets as you'd like to. And that's because of the way this map is built. If you notice, there's very few double routes around the board. All the double routes are on the outside of the board. So if you're playing a 5-player game of this, there's going to be a lot of competition, especially for these inner routes. Now these inner routes are going to have a lot of competition for them regardless. But there's a couple things to notice. First of all, there's some countries up here, Sudan, Chad, Nigeria, and so you can go either route to those countries, just like other Ticket to Ride games. In fact, Madagascar is done the same way. It counts as 2 different places, except you can connect those for, purposes of connecting other routes. But the middle of the board is going to be fought over like crazy. And so if I have to get here from Port Influence over to Luanda, it's a simple shot. But anything can block me. It's very easy to be blocked in this game, especially in these middle spots. The competition for the middle is going to be tough. Sure, you can go around the outside, but then that yet might be blocked too. So there's a very good chance in this game, more than any game I've ever played, of you being blocked on your ticket selection. But it's not just that. If you've noticed, the different spots on the board are all the same color. See how here there's pink, blue, and green, and over here there's red, yellow, and orange, and then there's black and white and gray over here. And that's done thematically because each of those different types stands for a different type of terrain. But it affects how the game plays because if, for example, I need to go from this city to this city, I need to get 8 purples, and that's harder to do than 6 purples and 2 of another color. And so you find like, oh, I need the same colors. And also, it does give the game a little bit of an edge because you're looking at what other people are doing. You're saying, oh, they're drawing reds, yellows, and oranges. Well, they're likely going to be down in this section. Now, this brings us to the biggest change of this game. At the beginning of a game, a deck of terrain cards is going to be shuffled. And these cards are going to be placed next to the board, and 2 of them are going to be flipped over. And on your turn, when you draw cards, you can draw cards like normal from the train deck, but you can also draw one or both of your cards from this. You can draw one of the face-up cards, or you can draw the top one from the deck. When you take these cards, instead of putting it in your hand, you'll put it face-up in front of you. Now, each of these cards shows 3 different color tracks on it. We have a red, orange, and yellow. We have the white, gray, and black. And then we have pink, blue, and green. And these stand for different terrain types. And I've already mentioned how that was thematic on how the map is. But it's more than thematic. When you score some trains, let's say, for example, I play 3 yellow cards. And I decide that I'm going to build this route right here from Sudan to Addis Ababa. And so I'm going to score, that normally scores 4 points. However, if I play a terrain card a yellow terrain card that matches that, then I'm going to double that. I'm going to get 8 points. And so that's great to double your points. Now, there's a couple of things about this. If the route is 4, 5, or 6, for example, if I would decided to do this route here, which requires 4 orange trains, 4 trains, and 2 wilds. Let's say over here, you can see this one here is 6 of any color, but 2 of them have to be wilds. That's what those locomotives mean. So I play these 6 cards, 4 oranges, and 2 wilds. And I want to double this root value. Well, then I would need to play 2 cards. For 4, 5, or 6, you need to play 2 cards. And I would play gray because that's the color of... Now, I wouldn't play orange. That's not the color of the cards I played, but gray, which is the color of the track, to double it. But there's another rule regarding this, and that is that when you play these cards, these terrain cards from in front of you, you can only play them if you have at least as many as everybody else does. So if I have 3 of these in front of me, and you have 2 of them in front of you, well then you can't play any. So you can draw these cards and place them in front of you and not use them to effectively block other players from using them. And so you have to decide, is it worth me keeping these in front of myself to block other players, or should I use them myself to double points? Because that doubling points can be pretty big. And in fact, not since the United States map, the original map, have I seen a map that rewards the non-ticket strategy so much, where you basically ignore tickets and just try to score points and mess other people up. It's a valid strategy. It's definitely not the only strategy. You can most certainly score points by connecting routes in this map and win that way, but that certainly is another way to do it. This game is not for new players. It's very easy to get blocked. It's a very tight, tough map. India was pretty tight, but this one might be even tighter. I mean, I don't usually get upset during games, but this one had me fuming a little bit when I got blocked. But I still love it. A great map, a great addition for experienced Ticket to Ride players. Ticket to Ride, Heart of Africa. Aha! One more minor thing before I go. Wild trains can be used in place of any of the terrain cards. So if you have, for example, a wild card in your hand, and this, I could play both of those to put out 4 trains on a red route and double my points there. That makes the wilds even more valuable. It wasn't like they weren't already valuable to begin with, so you'll see people sometimes even grabbing them from the display, something that doesn't happen often. Still, cool. I wonder if they'll ever, I wonder if these were tested. I haven't found anything online about it to use on the other tracks, like using the terrain cards in America or so. It might be an interesting experiment, but they work really well on this board.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.